got a real face-palm-inducing story here. It's from the Hollywood Reporter. It's all up in archive, by the way. But Alan Moore told DC Comics to donate his future screen royalties to Black Lives Matter. In a new interview with the Telegraph, the legendary comic creator also discusses why Frank Miller's The Dark Knight is a bit too birth of the nation for him, and how interactions with fans at comic conventions played into a decision to retire into a, quote, writer's life. He basically says, he goes on, he's changed how he shares his royalties. He's long refused to have his name attached to screen adaptations of his work, and has frequently been critical of said adaptations, revealed he stopped sharing the royalties with the movie's writers, and no longer wish it to even be shared with them. I don't really feel with the recent films that they have stood by what I assumed were their original principles, so I asked for DC Comics to send all the money for any future TV series or films to Black Lives Matter. They just had a Watchmen TV series on HBO that the critics loved. They act like it was the greatest thing ever. In terms of views, not as much, but whatever. I'm sure there was plenty of people who liked it. I personally didn't care for it, but that's just me. Anyway, but you want to give that money, and these were pro-black people who did that. The last Watchmen series. But yet, don't give them any royalties, but send it to BLM, who's a complete racket, who's a complete scam, who are just trying to enrich themselves at the expense of people. And it's even more insidious because they do it by preying on people's guilty conscience. What they're guilty about, I have no idea, but whatever. But they just want to donate their money to it. You hear about, this poor black guy got shot and killed and stuff. I'm going to donate money. Okay, there are a lot of people like that. They made a lot of money. BLM did. This one's from the Wall Street Journal. BLM's anti-police racket is coming undone. Mentions a couple stories. But specifically, the one I want to talk about is that the New York Post reported back in 2021 that the BLM co-founder had purchased 4 homes for a total of $3.2 million. What the hell do you need 4 homes for? Why are you paying almost $3.5 million for them? This one here is from the times.co.uk. Black Lives Matter mansion is symbol of waste and corruption. This is from May 2022. $6 million compound. Who does it belong to? The name on the deed is that of a Black Lives Matter of the Black Lives Matter global network, who claims that it was bought as a campus for a Black Artist Fellowship. That's what the complex is being used for. This week, however, there was little sign of a bustling art space. However, instead, the property appeared deserted. Critics argue the gated compound is emblematic of the waste and corruption at the heart of a campaign group created to ease the plight of black people everywhere, which has instead enriched a select few. Absolutely. Tax documents released this week reveal that the group has $42 million in assets, following a flood of donations received after the death of George Floyd. And it goes on. Filing also shows that the co-founder, Patrice Cullors, paid a company owned by the father of her child almost $970,000 to produce live events and other creative services. Her brother was paid more than $840,000 for providing security services, further inviting criticism of the group's operations. Cullors, an activist, who was previously subjected to scrutiny after her murder, she had a property portfolio. She was the one from the story, the $3.2 million having the 4 properties. She claims she's a victim of the right-wing media. And gives an example of Lisa Simpson became disillusioned with BLM after her son was shot and killed by police in Los Angeles in 2016. She believes the organization's leaders are more interested in financial gain than helping families. I'm not surprised by any of this stuff. She basically talks about how they're just wasting the money on themselves. Essentially, they're not helping black people. Because it says here, Simpson said she was outraged to read that Black Lives Matter's properties or leaders buying property portfolios while she struggled with homelessness. She's like, I don't even want the money because it's bigger than money. I want them out of the fight. They have destroyed families. It caused nothing but hurt and pain. I don't understand how anybody would think that they should get paid because of the death of somebody else's kids. Then it gives a little more. Again, it goes back to the history of blah, blah, blah. This is absolutely absurd. And going back to Alan Moore real quick, he talks about, like, with the Frank Miller's The Dark Knight, it's a pretty sub-fascist vision. The idea of one man, perhaps on horseback, who can sort out this mess. It's a bit too birth of a nation. It's like, what are you talking about, dude? It just sounds absolutely insane. He said he stopped going to comic conventions because fans would treat him like when they were talking, they would have like they were having a religious experience rather than an ordinary conversation. That I agree with to a point. It's kind of weird because it's like, Alan Moore is famous, but I mean, he ain't any better than anyone else, basically. No one's better than anyone else. Basically, we're all the same assholes inhabiting this rock. we call Earth, no, that kind of stuff, But it just goes on and it talks about, he gives some more of his opinions and stuff. You can actually read a story on the Telegraph if you really want it. I wouldn't really recommend it. I'm not going to link to it. I'm just going to link to these 3 stories here in the description box. Alan Moore, I think, is just crazy. I think he is a good writer. I don't think he's great. Like some people act like he's one of the greatest writers of all time. I think he's good, not great. I think he's had I think he's had times where he's been great, and other times where he's as hacky basically as anybody could be. So people want to put him up on this pedestal. And I feel the same way about Frank Miller. I feel the same way about a lot of people. A lot of the people that they put up on pedestals, you're like, dude, you act like this guy can't do any wrong. People do wrong all the time. But anyway, I've already gone almost 6 minutes with this video, so I'm going to go and wrap this up. Like I said, I'll link this in the description box. You can read any of these for yourself. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.